the Dirty Sports Podcast. I said, welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast with Andy Ruther and Joe Prano. Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Ruther, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, with my co-host from Port Hueneme, California, Joey No Chill Prano.
Hello, Andy.
Happy March Madness Day 1.
March Madness is here. Did you already have the games up this morning? Did you have them on in the background? I think the first start was 9:15 a.m. for me.
Haven't turned on the TV today.
Wow.
I mean, I'll watch. I for sure will watch. But
You have a bracket filled out.
I do.
Okay. Who's your Final Four, Andy?
Who did I pick? UConn.
Okay.
Pretty easy there. I think I had UConn, Marquette, so 2 Big East. So that definitely won't happen.
I don't know. You know what? I kind of like that because a lot of people, and we got Pete Cestaro joining us later. A lot of Big Easters very upset. And when this has happened in the past, the Big East has shown up. When the Big East has felt like they were done wrong by the committee, the Big East has showed up. Maybe you're playing the exact strategy. Go with the Big East teams.
So I have my Final Four. UConn. Oh, risky. Marquette. Purdue, because they lost to a 1 seed or a 16 seed last year. I was like, they're going to make a comeback. Did I put Michigan State in the Final Four?
Yeah, you love Tom Izzo.
Dude, he's a great coach. As a 9 seed, did I put them in the Final Four? I believe I did.
You love to see it. Tom to the Izzo. V to the Izzy.
I mean, they're like 18 and 14. It's a risky pick.
It's risky. You got to get risky in the March Madness.
But
you're not
you know
going to
what?
wind up playing all the safe ones.
Yeah, and again, it's like that's a coach. I don't think you can kind of in a way toss the record out the window because he's so experienced.
Yeah.
Like him and Jim Boeheim are very similar. It's like they take a squad that's a 9 seed, a 10 seed, and they're like, okay, I can get this squad to the Final Four. Like we're not going to win it all, maybe once. I think both of them have one title, but we're gonna make some deep runs.
And when you say Syracuse, when you talk about Jim Boeheim, I mean, this is just historically. Obviously, I don't keep up with the game as much as I once did, just being a young sports fan who watched everything and anything sports. But historically, even in the somewhat recent years, the Dukes, the North Carolinas, the Kentuckys, they have the one and dones a lot more often than the Syracuses and the Michigan States. And I think that's why a lot of this has always been my theory. People go the mid-major, anything can happen in March Madness. I'm like, yeah, anything can happen when you actually have guys who have played together for more than 3 months of basketball and actually know what they're doing. And now you get one of those, you get schools like Michigan State or Syracuse where the guys stick around, play for a few years together, and they're in a real conference and they have the potential of making a real run.
And might have maybe 2 one and done guys.
Yeah.
To sprinkle in there the athletic ability and the talent. So I don't know. They're up 7 at halftime right now. But again, I hopefully Pete knows what he's talking about because I know absolutely nothing.
Well, Pete, I had thrown out the idea to Pete of coming on. And I mean, he's literally, I told him when he logs in, he can put his name and he can put his Twitter handle or his Instagram handle on if he wants, or he could just put disgruntled St. John's fan because he's been through a lot there. And now he's got Ricky P and they were certain they were getting in. They're not. So I think he's got a lot to say about the committee, Big East basketball. And, he's just a guy who follows college basketball in general. So he should have some great insight for us, two guys who don't follow it much at all. But there's plenty of stuff going on in sports in addition to March Madness. I mean, this is one of the more fun times of the year. We always talk about it. I think football season with playoff baseball and the start of the NBA is probably the best time of year. But March Madness, end of the NBA season, start of baseball, also pretty great.
And we have so much gambling news stories today. They all came together. It's crazy. I'm talking different sports, all gambling related, all of it. And you and I haven't actually really had a full discussion that I'm ready to have about what's happened now. As a guy who's all for it, like, I think now's the time.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I bet we're on the same page. In fact, I'll put us being on the same page at about a 2 plus 240.
Right, because it's been in the news a lot lately, especially in the NBA. First, we have Rudy Gobert saying the refs are being swayed by. The refs are being swayed by gambling. Then we had why is his name slipped my mind on the Cavs? What player recently said he feels like a prop bet? Why is this slip my?
Donovan
why
Mitchell?
Is this? No, it wasn't Donovan Mitchell.
I didn't see this. I did see that you had sent it to me in a text this morning, but I didn't actually.
Not the Cavs. It was sorry. It was Tyrese Halliburton. It was Pacers.
Oh, okay.
So he recently said he feels like a prop. That, like, with all the bats, and it's out of control. And now, as of yesterday, Cavs head coach JB Bickerstaff said he received threats last season from gamblers. He said they got my telephone number and were sending me crazy messages about where I live and my kids. He said before the Cavs hosted the Heat. NBA security was alerted. They located the gambler who was making the threats. And he was talking about it, saying, like, dude, there's a new level of pressure.
Well, again, this all comes with the internet gambling. This all comes with this thing. It's just so much more accessible. I was talking about this when I did our DS watch party for the Knicks game the other night, which was behind the wall on our brand new Substack, which you can sign up for on dirtysports.com if you missed my live Knicks game watch, which I'm going to be doing a lot more of. As I said on the live watch, I was like, I watched the games anyway, and my girlfriend probably couldn't have been happier that I was like, I'm taking it to the shed for the next 2.5 hours. So I think these are going to be something that happens often if you needed any more reason to go sign up on dirtysports.com. But as I was saying, with the internet gambling boom, it's now so much more accessible for the people. It's the equivalent of like when marijuana became legal. It's like people who would have never considered doing it before are like, oh, I'll give it a shot. It's like, you mean it's like it's legal for me to do? I said when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, my first bets were on betting sheets, and you'd circle your picks, you'd sign your name on it. I would give it to my buddy who's, God knows his uncle or his cousin or his brother was a bookie. He'd rip off the bottom. It was like my receipt with my bets on it. And you were doing, obviously a very small time crime for $40 or $60 or whatever, but you were doing a criminal activity. And I know for years and years and years, people who wanted to bet on something. Oh, I want to bet the Super Bowl. Oh, I want to get in a March Madness. Oh, I want it, would be like, can you help me? Can you make these bets for me? Then when you go back to the early 2000s, when being able to put your March Madness pool into CBSSports.com or into ESPN, then you get into the fantasy boom, we've seen throughout the years NFL players saying, people yelling at me about my fantasy stats. That was like the first level of it. People spending $50 or $100 for the year yelling about their fantasy team, yelling about $50 or $100. Now you can make a player prop bet for $50 and then walk into the game and scream at Tyrese Halliburton to shoot more. You can just go scream at him because you bet the over shots taken or whatever.
And here's another one. I don't know if you saw this. This is part of the gambling discussion. The NBA announced they will start infusing betting into live games for anyone who has the NBA League Pass. So past viewers will be able to track betting odds on NBA games as they watch on the app, and then the ability to click through to wager. Viewers will be able to pick and take their bet to sports books like FanDuel and DraftKings, partners with the NBA. So there's a screenshot of this, and it's showing the game, and on the right are the odds. So like now we're to this level of the NBA League Pass is like, hey, you're watching the game. We're literally just going to have odds right next to it.
And just think about all these conversations that surround these sports, the ratings, the whatever, we've heard from all the people, the NBA ratings. There was a time where you went to a game and you bought a Coke or a beer and a pretzel and a jersey at the game, and that money was going from your pocket to the league. If you weren't at the game, your money was going maybe to a beer that you saw on TV or a truck that you saw on TV, and that company is seeing how those ads are working, so they're spending more money on ads, and that's going back to the ESPN or the ABC or the NBC, and then that's being funneled back to the league. Now we're talking about I'm watching the NBA on the NBA app and then spending money with an NBA partner without leaving my home, spending money to wager on the game I'm watching with an NBA partner. They can just see the money. They can see your money. They can see the money you're spending on their league live as it happens. In fact, they're monitoring it so they can change the odds as it happens.
But the question is, how will this affect the sport? We're seeing players, coaches more vocal in the NBA, but definitely some in the NFL. My point is, it's only going to get more vocal in all the leagues. As I've been very open and honest, like I'm like, let people decide what they want to do, right? Like that's my mantra, like with their bodies, with gambling, with drugs, whatever.
But you say that, yeah.
I was about to say, but it seems right now you need to have some sort of restraints. You need to have some sort of restrictions, right? Like now 38 out of 50 states have legalized sports gambling. So for lack of, now California, as we've discussed, isn't. It's one of the few, but like, which will be a great lead into the Shohei Ohtani story and his translator stealing money for paying off gambling debts. But my point is this, Joe. Doesn't it feel like the complete and utter wild, wild west? And we need like some sort of restrictions going on here.
We've talked about it so much, how these leagues have flipped on this. The most, like, it is the most you could have possibly flipped. I mean, I did the joke today that on Twitter, I said, if you've ever heard Pete Rose talk, it's barely English. It's too bad he didn't use a translator to make his bets with his bookie, or he'd be in Cooperstown. It's like we have in every league, we have a player, a coach, a referee, a whatever, who has been, put up against the wall and shot over a gambling scandal. And now each and every league is promoting it. This is the equivalent of Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Sammy Sosa not being in the Hall of Fame, and then being like, make sure you download the Balco app during today's Major League Baseball game and put in promo code ROIDS for your first fucking shipment of anabolic steroids. It would be the equivalent of baseball having a partnership with steroids. Pete Rose is still not in the Hall of Fame, and they're promoting gambling. Basketball is promoting it in the app. It's insane.
Yeah, it really is. And I think, and again, we're not going to know about this until years down the line. The effect, and I think it will, the effect I think it'll have psychologically on the younger sports fans.
On the younger sports fans? How about the younger athletes? How about athletes who, and we've already seen it, how about college kids who are just playing around on their FanDuel app or whatever, that then end up one day being in the NBA or in the NFL or in Major League Baseball, and are so aware of the process. Again, you're just like, these guys now know. They now know their personal prop over and unders for the game.
Yeah, how is
That's
that
wild?
How is that psychologically affecting them?
I'm sure there are guys who are like, I don't give a shit. You know, I'm sure there are guys. I'm sure LeBron James is like, I'm going to play my game the way I play my game, no matter what. But I'm sure there's younger guys. I'm sure there's, I don't know, less premier guys. There's whatever who are like, damn, this is a big deal.
But not only that, like, think about that. They might not be able to bet. Family.
Yeah.
Their brother's like, hey, man, I'm taking you tonight to have the over on 3-point shots made.
Yeah.
And then that's planted in the player's head. And then he's like, well, shit, my cousin or my uncle or my brother or my dad or my mom, whoever.
It's insider trading. I mean, we've seen this. This is how financial crimes are committed. Hey, you know, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but just so you know, we're acquiring this company tomorrow and this is going to happen and blah, 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 blah. You know, it's how Martha Stewart ends up in jail. You don't have to be two guys away. Dude, your cousin's best friend, they can't link that to you. You're on the phone with your NBA playing cousin. Just FYI. Mike's got fucking
10 grand on you tonight.
His rent on just your field goal attempts. Just your field goal attempts. Which by the way, Vegas is setting at right around where they think you should be. So like you don't really have just like hoist 2 extra shots a game.
Yeah, you don't have to. You remember Mike? You met him that one time. He's a cool dude.
Yeah. He lives in Vegas. Next time we go to Vegas. Just you know, putting myself in those shoes. If I was a borderline NBA starter, I'd be a slot machine that wins every night.
Well, it's definitely gone from just the standard lines or point spreads to just every single prop bet you can think of. I never thought I'd hear NBA players saying that, or any guy being like, I feel like a prop bet.
Yeah.
You went from gambling. The NFL did not even want to discuss Las Vegas.
You remember Chris Berman's lines back in the day when he would basically give you his over-unders? And he'd be like, I got the Seahawks beating the Chiefs today, 23-19. And you're like, how the fuck do you figure they're going to be? The score's going to be 23-19. And it's just him telling you he's got over 41.
Yeah. It's nuts how far it's come in such a short amount of time. I'm talking a couple years. The minute that Supreme Court decision happened, it's like everybody was
Boomers picks of the week. I got the Jets over the Dolphins. I see the Jets winning 23.5-20. You wait. How are the Jets going to score half a point? Don't worry about it.
Well, I see Pete is hopped into the queue, so we're gonna have to get him on here in a second to discuss March Madness. He can fill us in. We obviously have to discuss Shohei Ohtani's translator stealing $4.5 million to pay off gambling debts because it's not legal in California, and he was paying some dude in California illegally. All great discussions, which will be behind a paywall.
On the new dirtysports.com. Sign up on dirtysports.com. Shout out to everybody who has signed up already. You know, Andy, there's been some interesting I've had some interesting thoughts already about our new partnership with Substack and the new dirtysports.com, and the fact that there's there's some things that are going to be behind a paywall and some things that aren't. First of all, I want to get some plugs in before we go behind the paywall. I want to shout out the good folks at Rabbit Air. Rabbit Air supplied me with this amazing air filter for the Creation Shed, because I've been saying, hey, the new dirtysports.com, I'm going to be in the Creation Shed doing a lot of live watches, doing a lot of things. I want to be able to smoke a cigar out here without just like ruining the thing. And they're like, oh, great. Plug this thing in, and it's just going to suck your cigar smoke right into it and repurpose it as fresh, clean air. And it's already working fantastically. I also want to tell people that I'm going to be at New York Comedy Club in Stamford on April 25th. So come out and get your tickets now. But the other portion of this that I wanted to say is I will not be in Arizona this weekend. And those shows, unfortunately, I had to pull myself from those shows. And the story about why I'm not on the shows in Arizona is an interesting one. And it's an interesting one that I'm going to share in a couple of weeks. I'll share it in a couple of weeks, little couple week tease, but it's for sure the kind of story that I would never tell publicly, but I will tell the subscribers, because those are people, they've shown me with their credit cards that they're trustworthy. They've shown me with their credit cards that I can tell them secrets and they will keep it close to their chest. So subscribe on dirtysports.com so you can get the rest of this show. And in a couple of weeks, you can get a real interesting story. And also so that you can get the great Pete Cestaro talking college basketball.
Cool. Well, let's do that. We'll bring Pete on now to discuss March Madness, his take, and he can wallow in some of his tears about St. John's not making the NCAA tournament. Okay, let's pull Pete up here.